Hello, you guys, and welcome back. We're going to be working on how to actually perm and put your perm rods in your mannequin that you've already previously sectioned. So at this point, you should have 9 sections, and we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing that I want to talk about is the size of the base that you're going to use, and it's going to be determined on the size of the rod. So if you use a bigger rod, you're going to take a bigger section. If you use a smaller one, you're going to take a smaller section. And the smaller that you go, the smaller that your little subsection will be. Okay, so you're going to just measure that out. I'm going to be using the bigger rod since my mannequin's hair is so long. So I'm going to go in and just kind of measure that out. So she's going to have a kind of a little bit thicker of a subsection. Make sure that you use your perm rods. I also want to point out that when you're taking your sections, you're going to use your perm rod to measure, but it's not, your sections are not as wide as the perm rod. They got to fall within that perm rod. So when you start wrapping the hair is inside of the perm rod. So you don't want hair to be kind of falling over the perm rod. That's not going to help get you the best result. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and subsection this in. Now, before I put my perm rod on, I want to make sure that I use a end paper. Remember that anytime that you're using your end papers, it's going to help protect the ends from any extra damage. So I want to show you a little trick on how to separate your end paper. Okay, so your end papers come in a little box like this. They're thin tissue-like paper, but when you're doing a perm, to try to get each one out individually can be a little challenging. So what you can do is take a little stack out. And you put it on your table. You use the edge of your comb, and you're going to just start twisting that comb, and it's going to start separating those papers for you. So you can just kind of maybe hold it in one corner, and so you'll separate those the end papers. So when you start grabbing, you can just grab them, they're already separated. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping my perm. I'm going to go ahead and comb her out, get her nice and smooth. I do want to talk about the direction that your mannequin's going to be, not your mannequin, but your section. So if you want an on base set, you're going to over direct it away. If you want a half base, you're going to go straight up. And if you want an off base, you're going to go back. So that's just going to determine how much volume you're going to get on your root. Okay, so as you start getting ready to get the end papers on your ends, so you want to just make sure, are your ends even? If they become uneven or even unruly, something like this, you could use the double flat wrap where you put one paper in front, you put the other paper in the back. Okay, I personally always like to saturate my papers just to make sure that end paper gets, gets kind of stuck to the hair. The first 2 rollers, and you want to determine this with your client, but the first 2 rollers, I'm going to go ahead and wrap away from me. So it's going to go towards the client's face. So you can see those ends going through that paper. Once the ends go all the way through the paper, then you can go ahead and start wrapping those ends, and you can start wrapping that hair. The Croquignole effect is going to go from the ends all the way straight down the way that I just did. Okay, I'm going to take my band and I'm going to wrap it the closest to the base. Okay, you want to make sure that your band isn't all twisted up. And I'll show you as we move forward what I mean. So I have my first one going forward. I'm going to go ahead and do my second one. And again, you're checking the size of the base according to your size of rod. Okay. Another technique that you can use when perming is going to be your single flat wrap. So you're going to take one paper, it's going to go long ways, and you'll go ahead and just you'll just wrap it right down the center there, and that should help those uneven ends as well. My first 2 are still going forward. So if you see, I'm going to go till I get all my ends in. The reason that I want to make sure I get all the ends in, especially that I make sure that I get them wrapped in that end paper, is because if you don't have that end paper, it's gonna your ends are gonna get extra damage. So you're gonna end with what we call fish hooks, where your ends basically go, so you don't want that to happen. All right, so I got my first 2 going forward. From this point on, everything is gonna get rolled back. Okay, so I'm gonna take my next section. The third way that you can use your perm paper is with the bookend end wrap or end paper, where I take my paper and I'm going to go a little more horizontal and wrap that in half, kind of like if I was going to open a book. Again, I like to saturate that. It's a personal preference. If you like doing that, it is helpful. Now, the thing about the bookend ends when you're working with hair that's uneven is that most of my ends are down here, and I still have this little section that is still out there. So I have to keep going and then make sure that those ends are in there. So that's where those single and double flat wraps help. Okay. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but I released the tension in my cord here so that I can go in. You're going to go where the base is. So what I mean by that is if you wrap back, your base is going to be in the front. If you wrap forward, it's in the front section.
So you want the...
All right, so I already finished the top, and like I was talking about that band, you want to make sure that that band is going in front of the opposite way that the hair is going. So I rolled it back, so my band's going to wrap in front. You see that? The ones going the opposite way away from me, the band is facing towards me. So in the direction that you roll the perm, the band is going to go on the opposite direction. So I've already rolled the top section. I'm going to keep moving because I want to show you the band. So give me a second. Let me just get there real quick. Okay, remember that the croquignole, you go from the end, you just roll that straight down. You want to make sure you keep that tension nice and tight as you get closer to your base. You're going to release the tension in the band, that way it can unravel. Okay, and then you're going to make sure that it's straight, there's no twist in it. As you go and you wrap that in front, you're going to clip it to the opposite side, and you want to make sure that that band is as close to the base as you can get it. So you're going to just kind of push it towards that base if you need to. It'll help keep your perm rod nice and secure. You're going to work your way all the way down that mohawk section using the croquignole technique. Okay, as far as the end papers, you can use the flat, you can use the single flat, double flat, or even the bookend, depending on your mannequin. And you're gonna just roll that all going back. So if you notice, what I like to do is to keep the tension, is I would use my pinky and ring finger, wrap it towards the bottom, index finger towards the top, and then I have the hair even going through my index finger just to add that extra tension. So as I pull that all the way up, I can get make sure that I don't lose attention, especially as my ends start getting thinner towards the root or towards the end. And then I'm going to just wrap that straight down, keeping that tension all the way through. And so if you notice, I got the band in my middle finger. I'm holding with my index and thumb, and I'm just rolling that all the way down until I get to my base. Then I'm going to release the tension. There you go. You see that? So that way now my band is nice and straight, and I can wrap it or connect it to the opposite side. Push that band down so that now I've got my perm rods nice and set. So you're going to work your way all the way down, and then when you're done, come show me.